Hello, Americans. Since we were kids, all that was measured and maintained, communicated for our founders, then they asked to be communicated for themselves, for ourselves. Because we have to understand how our founders had to temporarily counter extort some of the other ones. Only really quickly, then the breaching method laws were so sick against everyone that they had to fear for themselves. And to an extent, they could continue. They had to rely on our founders' method, but they had to leave them entrenched with slavery, for example, North and South. They had to leave them, for example, entrenched with that breaching method, sickly distinctly against everyone with that slavery, including our founders, including sickly distinctly against Native Americans, sickly distinctly against the color black and white, to keep other communicated to us than nature's what it teaches us. It shows us how to answer questions. You know, Slavery is not natural, but as criminal insidiousness. Everyone should know that answer. But we had other pretended was why that as the answer and or as why that answer has not been known. See, right through our schools, the public schools sickly distinctly from the private schools and their locations, they're blaming other things, others themselves, with the breaching method caused, enforced, maintained, and used effectively to measure and maintain means to sense from abroad. The the same countries that did it through there too. In other words, we're in a semi-ancient trap that knew that modern countries wouldn't know how to counter as fact human nature. Its attack on semi-ancient countries. They knew that they would have to counter things like criminal foreign influences and or like criminal insidiousness as fact human nature countering it wrongly and defending that increasingly. It made that only capable of being. It knew people would make economic treatments. After it saw who, to an extent, it still didn't understand who our founders were. That's one of the reasons they left it. We don't understand who our founders were, Americans. When you hear them surveyed and things like that, and the people who know the answers, like in other words, who knows the most about American history. The people who have the most knowledge of each of the sciences are using that to get over on correlation nature. And all you have to do is see a picture of New York City, and you know that was designed semi by the breaching method. If you know that history properly about the suburbs, which were designed before our founders were even born, with slavery, northern colonies, southern colonies already entrenched. The suburbs are already designed before cars, let alone the cities. They were designed before they unfolded by a system that forced mass farming, forced people to value nature systems, including Native Americans, still not prevented religious rights unless collusions with definitions of religions that are criminally foreign influenced and tactically criminally foreign influenced, fact shaping nature qualities, aspects, uses of that, and tactically delusions wrought. Now, so the course of black pupils and whites of eyes has been forbid free speech because other has been in its place. Vaccines, or shadow boxing place, or some pace, or some rest. I tell it best. Vaccines, and gun problems, whatever. Like in other words, serious things. We have serious problems that come from, and they know it. They have roles with torture, slavery method, people stacking fake things in databases, and that exploit that with others. So this is really what furthers the overt criminal enterprises. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not police. They are recorded with judges, prosecutors, lawyers, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones originally and still facilitated for them while they're using fake identity difference. Readings of statutes they give the benefit of the doubt to themselves, wherein how they've been planting evidences offensively, wherein how they've been roles with what has been replacing what the short words our founders left us to understand. And nature gave us means to correlate since we were before we were in third grade, we have means to understand that the sciences are criminally foreign influenced and tactically delusions wrought. Where in our opinions regarding that. Opinions that pretend that it's debatable that New York City is not free. That's not debatable. Anyone who wants to try to debate and say that New York City is free, they're going to have to hide quality aspects and nature of the actual nature of their and uses of the application, uses of their nature by the application of the breach. They're going to have to hide the quality of premises treatments on a mass scale too. Still, we have this every day when you see the news companies sickly distinctly. Their sources into a branch have been lying to them. They locked them as a certain type of victim predator, hyper victim too, hyper predator too. See, the breaching method caused things as a hyper cause of negative value nature progressions, action natures, the sum of those laws. And the breaching method did it through our own. Native Americans against Native Americans. And we all are hyper native. Native Americans are additionally hyper native, so we can discern the breaching method, preventing us that hyper native unity. Native Americans are increasingly valued. Whenever we sense, which is only increasing, never has stopped, the breaching method against everyone sickly distinctly. See, president slash chief. See how they had to start as incompatible volumes. They're stayed incompatible volumes because all identity, ground, location, stay, self-value, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, blaming other things, others, ourselves for what caused negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like the subject of slavery. You have to understand how our founders and why our founders had to counter extort the other ones and how they had means for it per the phenomenon of how sick those laws were against everyone and how they would keep rules with that. And see, the uses of it were beyond that and are beyond that. There were people involved with the church with child abuses years ago, where kids that were child abused years ago have been roles with the justice system and with overt criminal enterprises and with corners of streets and with narratives with people tied to fake predicate acts, illusions stacked into databases at campuses. There are more with Sandy Hook campuses and with a principal child abusers campus from Weathersfield and other campuses. There is a Mr. Emmett and there are police forms with the schools. And there are medical families with the name Leahy that pretended conversations with me. Since I was a kid, behind my back, I never had classes with them. They had people tell me about them, and then they walked by me one time, smiled. And I don't even know who told me that. Same thing, I never saw Phil Clough on the inside of a campus. He was recorded involved with narratives and confessions. These are people involved with the intelligence community who've been stacking fake things into campuses' databases. As people involved with Weathersfield police fabricating audio and video transcripts to replace what's actually recorded over their phones. Because they also attached little kids to fake conversations and ties to themselves when they were kids. And now as an adult, they've increasingly been pretending conversations with me because they need to hide life progressions. Because they have rules of predicate acts recorded when I was a kid, but them recorded with judges and prosecutors and their family members and medical doctors with child offenders, sexual, medical at the same time, judicial branches. Don't change what I say. Stay on those acts I mentioned. Stay on those particular child abuses and name switching. So you have a little punks with badges that tell people to change what people say. Make sure you get them on paper too. Connecticut Interbranch and the New York tied to this. New York is tied to this. You guys owe me money for my teeth too, because you guys take my time. You got Sandy Hook names further involved with the principal child than with Hartford campuses, Rocky Hill campuses, Weathersfield campuses. I'm watching you when I'm asking you all this time to respond. Get on writing. Get on paper. Get on paper now. That's when you guys brought this stuff up. All exceptions of demonstration, the same thing. I knew I'd catch you when I forced people to call the police without telling them why. You little fakes. Now CT breaks. Because Hartford, New York City, too. Don't act crazy, because if they're going to make you act crazy, because they have the overt criminal enterprises, and the private ones are kept with the interbranch criminal insidiousness nature, and the exceptions tied to them, like people on off the state Connecticut judicial branch offices and corrections offices, as names involved with campuses placement. Even deans and principals and their kids are effectively being and having been used remotely, where because their motivations are screening their roles with foreign countries, and then they're pretending it's personal. They're bringing this up. All exceptions, exception nature, tend to prepare that appear other in demonstration, the same thing. They have people calling up campuses because the campuses are being brought up to them by people that have been using investigators in all sides of legal cases, criminally foreign influence. There are types of jobs like with victims advocates. They have sick logic still since founding, tactically delusions raw. They can't defend that and afford short words of anyone sane. So they increasingly self-value, pretending things. Oh, let's just let's ask that person's rich or this person's got a title. Get them on paper now. So they're increasingly leaking things too. They got the military involved with this. Watch what I caught them using the parks and Parks and Rec and Weathersfield town offices for. Fear God! CCSU, make sure I get a response from little punks, from Manny from Weathersfield. There's nothing personal between us. You guys are faking motivations narratives with the courts and police forms and overt criminal enterprises. They have you guys recorded how sick positive, negative treatments and identity treatments at the same time fakes. Now you guys are implying that it might be you're with them undercover, unmarked officers. It's not legitimate if that's what it is. So don't pretend that, because just get on paper if you want to hide that. Get on paper now. And with the ones with Weathersfield Police, with Weathersfield Pizza, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with child abuses with them. Same names involved with elderly homes and religious spots, sick fakes. Yeah, CT breaks. Get out of the. Make sure I get a response for the department. The people on the Board of Education too, brought up with their neighbors as the ones rolls on my street with the predicate acts, with the confessions of the police switching and forging names. Pretending they're lying about where they feel, why we're using their names and the ones around us. They brought it up. All exception nature demonstrations, same thing. Make sure they get on paper. Make sure I get a response for them. I asked them calmly for many times. This is before the World Trade Center attack. Leading up to it, and every year since, they have rolls with predicate acts. You're going to see some sick rolls with the same countries they're talking about fighting in economics. That's how you have math-only measures. You can't speak for law. You can't speak for the economy. You leave out the breaching method. You can't speak for our felons, but you spoke anyway. You guys came through sick campuses. You guys are child abused. Branches of government, fake difference with the exceptions tied to you at the same time with the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and worse, keeping you guys used remotely. Fear God to hide and plot. I rap a lot.